Well, good morning. I'm new at this chat room business, so what you're going to have to do is hang with me a little bit until I get this done. John is exactly right about parasites. They're everywhere. There's upwards of 250 that are identified on the CDC, the Center for Disease Control website. In fact, there's more than that. There's a parasite basically for every organ in your body. If you doubt that, you look at mosquitoes and chiggers and fleas and all them bitey things. That's an external organism for your skin. There's just as many of them as there is in your body. And most people think they've got to travel outside of North America to get them. And the fact is, there are local talents. Every place has got a group of parasites that your body's familiar with and protect itself from. But the fact remains, between armed services and international travel and vacationers, you're being subjected or inoculated is the term, with parasites all the time. So the only thing I can tell you is I manage parasites by nature of my work 4 times a year. Every time the season changes, I go through a parasite regimen. The thing that I wanted to do with our parasite program is to create one that is very thorough and gentle. So the key element to these things is to have the activity working inside of your body for a sufficient length of time to interrupt the reproductive cycle of these parasites. And we do that with a 30-day cleanse. People who don't do the sorts of things I do, and not everybody sees sick people all the time. I compete in a rodeo event. Most of it's indoors, so everything's getting kicked up out of the arena dust and stuff, and I fiddle around with horses and cows and all sorts of things all the time. So I got dogs and cats and yada yada. I go shopping at the local grocery store and I use their carts. I shop at Walmart. We have a Walmart here. You're just around. I open doors, I touch handles, and the fact is, you are being inoculated by the person who was there before you. I tell the folks that, pilots and people who travel extensively, every time you go into airport or movie house or get on an airplane or get on public transportation or go anywhere, you're shaking hands with 10,000 of your closest friends, and the likelihood of them having a parasite is 100%. And depending on the strength of your body, it's either going to be able to defend itself or not. The job of a parasite is to slide in underneath the radar. So its job is to hang around in your body and just steal nutrients from your body, but not make you sick. If something incidental happens, if you end up with some sickness or rather, the population of parasites can't retreat, so their impact is greater and greater and greater. So as you get sick, then these things manifest more and more. Depending on the kind of parasite, there's going to be some symptoms associated with it. And then if it's a brain parasite, it may be diagnosed as a tumor. If it's an intestinal parasite, it's going to be bleeding and bloating and gas and those sorts of things. If it's a heart parasite, it could be palpitations. If it's your lungs, it's going to be cardiopulmonary disease. I get some things called ear candles here, and this lady was having trouble hearing, so actually I went and got the ear candles and candled her ear, and I actually pulled a spider out of the inside of her ear. So certainly it was an external thing that somehow or other got in her ear, but the point is, there are all types of simple simple explanations for some of these really bizarre diagnoses. And I always, in my practice in particular, I always take the simple stuff off the table before I jump ahead into some of the more bizarre diagnoses. Just by way of example, I had a guy in here that, a couple years ago, and he was on the liver transplant list, and he was failing faster than it was likely he was going to get a liver. And by accident, he wandered in my place. We gave him a parasite treatment, and he ended up having something called a liver lobe-worm. And there's a lobe on the liver that controls, its liver works kind of like a water softener, and this liver lobe starts the flush cycle where the liver cleans itself. And this parasite had inserted itself in the little vessel that goes from the liver lobe into the liver, and it was blocking that process. Once the parasite was off of the table, this fellow's liver started working right. He just had a plugged up vessel thanks to a liver. There are blood parasites, there are heart parasites, if you name an organ, there's a parasite for it. So I tell people, if you don't think you have a parasite, quit wondering, because you do. And the trick is to just get rid of them. And it's precisely why I developed the formula. Our formula is called Propera. And I think it's $25. I'm going to announce here a little bit later that Monday I'll put a discount in our website, and we'll use code. So the coupon name is code, CODE _10, and that'll give you a 10% discount on the parasite product. And I think I'll have it extended so that you can get all of the cleansing products. Those of you that are interested, if you go to nupro.net/articles, there's some extensive writings. I'm fairly well published, and I've written a book, and there's some extensive writings on the subject of cleansing, and you can there's categories listed in there, and depending on what you want to see, there's 5 or 6 organizations in that website, and I've written extensively on the value of cleansing. Let's see, before we're finished up, there is a way, John writes, there's a way we can tell if we are getting sick. Very long time. John's talking about pH, and I'm a big advocate of some of the work of Antoine Béchamp. And at the turn of the century, his theory was different than the current medical theory. He believed that the internal terrain of the body will dictate your general health. There were a lot of things missing, but as he progressed, we've discovered that you can measure the internal terrain of your body, and simply by taking a pH test. It's a little strip that you stick in your mouth for when you get up in the morning, and you stick it in your mouth for a couple minutes and take it out, and it'll change colors. The optimum color is kind of a greenish, a light green color. That represents the optimum pH of your body, which is 7.3. If you're much below 6, and it'll show up as a kind of a yellowy orange color, if you're down in there, your body is in an acidic state, and in that acidic state it can't defend itself. So pH is generally a pretty good predictor, and 50 pH strips end up costing about $19, so it's way cheaper than some of the options you have. Well, anyway, those of you who think you don't have parasites, you probably do, especially if you haven't managed them. So you ought to take care of it. It's $25. It's generally the best investment you'll ever make in your life. John, I don't know what else you want to talk about, so I'll send it back to you, and then we can kind of answer any questions.